So lean in construction, I've been hearing about that for a few years now.
Yeah, since that
I don't have a
started
lot
off in
of,
like the 1990s.
so has it grown much? I mean, I know people who are trying to move it faster, move it forward, but
Yeah, it's growing. But
I guess I
I
have no
saw
sense of how big it is.
I saw your post on your website on Improver where lean
Yeah.
has like a tombstone, and I thought this is perfect. I was like, this is so good. Like, I got to
Yeah.
show that to Jay Carroll. He's got to see that post of yours.
Yeah.
And we definitely could spark some dialogue. I think
Oh yeah.
the three of us
Yeah.
could talk about how lean died. It's like it's over.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people
Yeah.
say that it's dead.
It kind of morphed into something else that's probably maybe not quite lean, but it's more commercial, I guess, more easy to, more modularized.
Yeah, but I had another guy on the show who was industrial engineer. I mean, he still is, and he teaches industrial engineering, and he has a consulting practice. And he's like, lean is a terrible photocopy of industrial engineering. and I was like,
yeah.
I was like, how big is industrial engineering growing these days? I was like, let's turn the table and like, are there, you just don't hear of like industrial engineers doing anything since Taiichi Ono. So I mean, like,
it's kind of
don't throw rocks
lean, really,
when you live in a glass house.
Yeah, I mean, most IEs become CI people now, so that's lean and CI people. So when I first came out, like in 2004, industrial engineering was more broader than lean and CI, but I think it's kind of narrowed in on. And then you got a lot of other engineers and a lot of other people that are not even degreed engineers becoming continuous improvement people, right? And lean people. So it's, it's a whole thing. It's a whole industry that is, I got a lot of mixed feelings about, what's going on with lean. It's this, I guess it's the concepts, right? It's you got to kind of know it and do it to fully internalize it before you can, speak to it. I also find that like I pick up a new customer, for example, and I'm sure you do this too, like a new client or something. Mm-hmm. And inside their business, they speak a very different language. You can read all the text you want on it, but you really don't learn to speak it until you have been long enough speaking with people in the company. The phonetics of how they talk, more and more the more time you're there. So yeah, I find that just reading and that thing doesn't quite teach you the language as well as speaking it.
For the construction teams, there are words and phrases that are only used in certain areas. And I've gone overseas and to South America as well, and it's the same. Like, they have some little idiosyncrasies too, but there's some terms that are only in construction that don't exist in retail, don't exist in manufacturing, which is kind of funny because construction touches both those industries tangentially as well. And you still have that there's like a disconnect between how people buy, procure, design, build, manage, and then there's a lot of similar project management type of words that permeate across multiple industries, which I'm sure that's our dictionary of terms, coming from some of those basic PM type of things.
Yeah, so it definitely helps to be sort of in the environment long enough, right? Because then I think it comes with credibility too, right? Like the longer you've been there, the more credible you are because you speak the way they speak. And
absolutely,
it's not that your job any better. It's just that you speak the way they speak. So they, people embrace your thoughts and ideas a little easier.
Welcome to the EBFC show, the easier, better for construction podcast. I'm your host, Felipe, Engineer Manriquez. This show is all about the business of construction. Today's episode is sponsored by
Bosch Refine My Site is a cloud-based construction collaboration platform that applies lean principles to enable your entire team to plan, communicate, and execute in real time. It's the digital tool that works in tandem with your last planner system process and puts it all together in one simple, collaborative ecosystem. This easy-to-use platform is available in English, German, Spanish, Portuguese, and French, and can be used on desktops, tablets, and mobile devices. According to Spencer Easton, scheduling manager at Oakland Construction,
Refine My Site, in my opinion, is the best, leanest tool on the market for last planner system.
Here's what our users have to say. We've looked at 3 other digital scheduling platforms and none compare to the straightforward approach Refine My Site takes. From milestone planning all the way down to daily tasks, this program gives every general contractor and their trade partners meaningful collaboration, accountability, and KPIs. Register today to try Refine My Site for free for 60 days.
Today's show is also sponsored by the Lean Construction Institute. LCI is working to lead the building industry in transforming its practices and culture. Its vision is to create a healthy and thriving industry that delivers outstanding project outcomes every time for everyone. Check the show notes for more information. Now, to the show.
Welcome to the show, Calvin L. Williams.
I'm doing fantastic. Appreciate you having me.
Please tell the good people of the EBFC show a little about yourself.
We do the podcast. It's not so structured as and professional as yours. We tend to just go and really pull in the folks that we're really excited to talk to, and it's not so regimented and scheduled as a typical podcast that you see out there. But it's a really fun show. But it's almost like a good tool of connecting with our community. What we really do is we're a technology company, and we offer a Agile Strategy Execution software, and we couple some services with that. My background, though, is largely in operations leadership and continuous improvement. So started out as an IE, industrial engineer, right out of University of Nebraska in Lincoln, and took my first job at Tyson as an IE, worked there for a few years, went to Nestle. That's where I got into continuous improvement. I guess Tyson really wasn't trying to do CI back then. This had to have been 2008 timeframe. And Nestle was looking for a CI leader. But of course, me, I was never a great subordinate, so I'd start doing stuff anyway. End up doing a really great changeover reduction event that reduced changeovers by like 36% in 4 to 6 weeks-ish time frame. And it ended up putting our plant, Jonesboro, Arkansas, on the map across the network. It was like 56 factories across the Nestle North America network, and we ended up winning second place in the next Nestle's Continuous Excellence Award that year. So
congratulations.
This sort of was it was a big meteor strike of CI and Jonesboro are on the map now, right? And after that, they the plant really started to buy in. They started to do a lot more CI related stuff. But I still wanted some operations leadership experience, so I went to Colgate, got to run production, in production, second shift for a couple of years. Went to Mars, ran operations, and was like lean manager at the same time. Then I took a job as a management consultant with a top tier global firm, A.T. Kearney. Did that for a few years. And then most recently, I was senior leader of global continuous improvement at Clorox. They were doing TPM. They were doing strategy deployment and execution. They were doing, I was leading an enterprise change management initiative and a bunch of other really cool stuff. And about 4 years ago, decided, you know what? Being in the game this long, operations leadership, continuous improvement leadership, I realized that a lot of what I was doing could be automated using software. So started to, put together a team, jumped off the corporate plank, as I like to call it, walked the plank, started Impruver about 4 years ago. And since then, we've been just, blazing a new trail of incorporating, technology in the continuous improvement space. And it's sort of evolved into the strategy execution space because, through this journey, I came to realize that, if it's not starting at the top, it's really not starting, right? It's really not, it's almost a kind of a flash in the pan. It's not really the real thing. So we realized that the executives don't speak necessarily shop floor CI and lean and stuff like that. What they speak is strategy execution. What they want to do is execute their strategies. And if you're doing lean right, you should see your strategy come into fruition anyway, right? So
exactly.
There's sort of a gap in the way it was being communicated. So we're saying, listen, let's just focus on strategy execution and then kind of use that as a lever to create a true continuous improvement, everybody improving something important every day culture throughout, the entire company. So we sort of going down a path of agile strategy execution.
I love that story. And ladies and gentlemen, Calvin and I were talking before the show started. We both grew up in the same town, and we played sports at each other's high schools. We had rival high schools in even though technically I could have gone to the same exact high school as Calvin.
Yeah, we were almost neighbors. How small world, right?
Small
What a
world.
coincidence.
And I studied electrical engineering and I ended up in CI. Calvin studied industrial engineering, ends up in CI. I mean, it's like crazy to think.
It is crazy. Yeah. Wow. Must have been something in the water in Dalton, Illinois, right?
That's right. That's right, baby. So Calvin, if I was going to, summarize or call your title better, would you say you're a technology company founder or operational excellence strategy coach? What would you say is your ideal title?
Oh man. It's hard to really put me in the box.
Right. I mean, could we say entrepreneur?
I think entrepreneur is pretty accurate. I think even when I was working in companies, I was an employee, but I was still an entrepreneur, and that helped me in some ways and hurt me in some ways, inside those companies. But yeah, I would say entrepreneur, tech entrepreneur. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at now. That's what I've evolved into. But I do also coach and consult and, do lean, implementate, the whole, do all that stuff. So author as well, actually working on the book. When it's ready, we got to come back. Yeah,
that's right.
I come back on the show.
I'll read the book and have you come back on the show. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and no free copies. I'm buying it. Everybody, you got to know that when value is delivered, feel free to pay and show that you value it.
That's it, right? And if they don't pay, then there's no value, right?
Exactly. You don't get to know.
It should be worth a few bucks. I mean, I haven't set a price yet, but if it's worth anything, you'd be willing to part with a few bucks to get it, right?
At least $20. Let's just put a price on it right now of at least 20.
I will tell you this though, right? There's so much incredible research and kind of synthesis of that research combined with a lot of real industry experience driving lean and continuous improvement and strategy execution, a lot of it being baked into this work. And my goal is for it to be a transformative work in the space of continuous improvement. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I love that.
I need an idea of the premise. I don't know how much time we have, but
we got all the time for you that you need.
Fair enough. So the book, the working title is FIT, F-I-T, which stands for Framework for Iterative Transformation. Right.
I love that.
So if you think of Agile, iterative transformation, right? The subtitle is Agile Strategy Execution for Unstoppable Growth, right? That's kind of the working title, but the concept of FIT is almost like a play on the concept of lean. If you think of lean as create value for the customer, reduce waste, eliminate waste, that kind of thing. The connotation of the word lean is a little bit misleading for somebody who's not educated on lean, right?
Absolutely.
And usually the word comes before the education. So
always,
person seeing that word may think lean means getting skinny.
Yep.
And a lot of companies have taken that and have become anorexic in a way, right? Too skinny. Right. And I talk to a lot of leaders and, I say, hey, tell me about your business. And one of the first things they say is, well, we run a very lean staff. And I'm thinking, oh, that means you don't have enough people to do your job. Is that what that means? So oftentimes that's what they mean. So the concept of FIT is more directional. It's more about your function. It's more about what you're trying to achieve. So you need to get fit for what you are trying to accomplish. You're already fit for what you're already accomplishing. That's what you're fit to do. But if you want to accomplish something greater, something more, you have to become fit for that. And that's what creates the need for continuous improvement, right? So I like the term fitness or fit better than I like the term lean. Not everybody, not lean, more lean is not always good. More fit is always good, right?
Yeah. And then as they start to implement that framework for iterative transformation, then as a coach, it's very easy to rate the fit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you see what I did there?
Exactly. Exactly, right. I'm gonna have to get you to do a foreword on the book, but
I was like, my son's always, every time we put some clothes on or we're trying some We just got some glasses recently, and my son put on a pair of glasses. He's like, "Dad, rate the fit."
That's it,
like,
right?
10 out of 10, son.
that's my son too. He's 10 out of 10 guy.
Yeah.
But that's a great point. It's like if you're clear on where you're trying to be, you're clear on your destination, then it's very easy to rate whether or not what you're doing is working or not, right? Your level of fitness, you know. If you're trying to get to the moon and back.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it, right? The thing I like about it, what it really excites me about this work is that if you think about, so there's sort of a understory that's kind of woven into the book, right? It's the JFK, the moonshot, where it's like we're gonna get to the moon and back by 1970, right? That was just super ambitious, crazy, impossible goal, right? In the eyes of a lot of people, but it's incredibly inspiring at the same time. When the goal was set, the capability to achieve that goal had not been developed, right? We didn't have the engineering, we didn't have the science, we didn't have the technology to achieve that. But in that, just for in the sort of byproduct of setting that goal and working toward it, we ended up becoming, you know, even more of a global superpower, right? And a lot of it was, if you think about the military capability of the U.S. with rocket technology and science and all that stuff, it put us almost light years ahead of anybody else in the world.
Absolutely.
Right? Because at the time it was like the Russian missile crisis and all that stuff, and there was a lot of fear that Russia was kind of getting ahead of us scientifically, and engineering wise, and us saying we're going to be first to the moon and back, and doing that and working on that and investing in that and inspiring people for that. We ended up just blasting ahead of the rest of the world, and we brought the rest of the world ahead with us. Right, kind of the foundation for GPS technology came out of that. The foundations for the internet came out of that. Like so many things that we all still benefit and prosper from came from JFK kind of putting it all on the line and saying, we're going to do that impossible thing. And that's, yeah.
Absolutely. And that transcendent goal later gets adopted by people in the Agile movement, and it gets put into different frameworks, like my favorite, Scrum, of course.
Yeah.
And you even wrote about this in one of your blog posts on your site. And we'll put a link to your site, impruver.com, in the description notes below so that everybody can consume the beautiful blog content, get access to the technology. And the user interface that you're showing, Calvin, is gorgeous, by the way.
Oh,
it's very
Felipe, you are too kind, man.
No,
you're too kind. I appreciate that.
I'm honest. I don't give out fake compliments. I only put real compliments in my done column after they've been given. But
hey,
you've got a
That's awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome. There's an article called "If You Like Football, You'll Love Agile Strategy Execution," and I often, and people don't even realize, like I was cyber stalking Calvin probably for about 4.5-ish years when he was making the transition from Clorox to becoming independent and running Impruver, or founding Impruver is you don't even realize you came onto my radar because of software. I mean, it was the LinkedIn algorithm was said, hey, if you like listening to stuff that Bob Emiliani does, you might like Calvin, right? Like an Amazon book recommendation, which is how I actually got to find out about Agile in the first place. It was a book recommendation because I was reading so many light industrial engineering type books and continuous improvement type books, how I got into it. But Calvin, I mean, the way that you write, or whoever's putting together this beautiful content on your website, I mean, it is clear. One thing is super clear.
Awesome.
It's not just theory. Like the way things come across, I can tell that there is a mountain of experience and evidence with these concepts. And so like there's one little graphic, and I'll probably put the graphic here from the article so people can see it as we're talking about it. And you've just got like 3 simple things. You're like, here's 3 simple ways to think about this. I use the same content when I'm teaching people how to use Scrum in design construction. That's why it super resonate with me. You said you got to have a long-term goal, a short-term goal, and the next action step, which a lot of people listening, we've got some Kata geeks out there, I'm sure. And Kata geeks know exactly where that comes from. Some of the work that Mike Rother developed with the Toyota Kata.
Oh yeah.
But you've got this analogy to American football, which I think a lot of people know what that is. And rather than me like just blah, blah, blah about it, can you just talk to us about why you picked American football and just how you broke it through these three lenses of the disciplines of execution, the kata, growth hacking, and of course agile.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a good one. Yeah. So if you look at the four disciplines of execution, you just named them, Toyota Kata, growth hacking, lean startup, even like the good to great, right? They all have the same basic framework, and that's set a long-term goal, right? That could be a year or longer, perhaps. I like to kind of, float around a year, set a short-term goal, and that's, a couple weeks, couple months, whatever makes sense. And then your next action, right? And in American football, right, we kind of break it down. American football, the long-term goal is like a touchdown, right?
Yeah.
We're going to score a touchdown. The short-term goal is like score a first down, right? And that's what you're actively working to do in the moment, is trying to score a touchdown. But you don't create like a long plan to score a touchdown. You don't say we're going to run these exact plays in series. What you do is you run one play, and then you huddle, you assess how that play went. Right. This is the same in Toyota Kata, where you're doing like PDCA cycles in between each experiment. Right. And four disciplines of execution is like you execute a commitment, and then you have the team meeting, and then you talk about the next commitment. Right. All these things sort of built on the same fundamental structure as American football. And what it makes football work so well for this, and of course, your next action is your next play. What makes football work so well for this is it's progressive, right? You're progressing toward the touchdown over time. It's iterative, meaning you run a play, you learn from what you just did, you sort of think about what you should do next, and then you go execute the next play, right? So it's iterative. And then it's cyclical, meaning you get sort of a break between each action, right? And you kind of decide your next action. So really, yeah, if you look at Toyota Kata framework, it's the exact same thing. 4DX, all these sort of, I think the whole world is moving in that direction. And part of the reason it's moving that way is because the level of disruption and unpredictability is only increasing with time. You can't create this big, massive plan and then go out and say, yeah, we're going to execute this plan almost blindly, because what that does is triggers a did you get it done mindset. You don't think anymore. You stop thinking. And
I'm only laughing so hard because I've been involved in so many continuous improvement efforts where you've now just given words to the faces and the management style and approach.
That's it. It's like we got this plan. We're gonna stop thinking, and then it goes straight into execution. It goes straight into did you get it done? Did you get it done? It doesn't even matter that the thing you're being asked to get done is still relevant. Right? It's no longer relevant, right? Because you create the plan at day 0. A month later, you have a pandemic. So this whole 12-month plan is now obsolete, right? So instead of creating a new plan based on the new reality, people just continue trying to execute the same old obsolete plan, right? Just imagine the enormous waste that produces. I think this between me and you, Felipe, and the listeners to the show here. I think that this thing, because of the rate of disruption and because we have such an ingrained status quo of create these massive plans and just blindly execute the plan, I think this is the greatest category or the greatest source of waste across entire enterprises that there is. This is it. This is the single greatest source of waste. And unfortunately, the biggest of the eighth waste, right? The eighth waste, eight waste, even this is often considered the eighth waste. The biggest waste is wasted talent and ideas. Because again, if you're just blindly executing a rigid plan, you're almost shutting off the spigot of ideas to address today's reality, like the real what's going on right now reality. So I think with agile strategy execution, and this model we were describing before, this almost forces you to think between every play. Just run a play, something you can get done in a day, something you can get done in a week. Run that play. Let's come back and let's think again. Let's learn. And then let's decide what we're going to do next. That's ultimately what it comes down to.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And there's a corollary in lean construction. We were talking about that before the show started. In lean construction, they developed a methodology for doing long and short-term planning to help critical path method scheduling, or these big gigantic Gantt chart plans. Was originally the problem they were trying to solve was, make that update effort easier. And as a accidental side effect of trying to make that better using lean types of methodologies and good industrial engineering practices, they invented something totally different that completely can replace that type of planning, big, super detailed to the day, multi-year planning,
right?
Something that's way more agile, that's long-term and short-term. And as you're talking about it, a lot of people, if they're so used to the 3-year long Gantt chart or waterfall schedule plan, and they're so used to being just graded on, did you get this done at this day? What's your completion rate? Are you trending above or below? What's your earned value? What's your schedule performance index? Some of these types of terms, they learn this new thing, and they call it last mile system production controls is the new thing, pull planning. And then they still apply the same type of thinking to, did you get it done? Did you do it? And it's like that plan isn't even relevant anymore. But when you take that agile approach, like you said, and like, I know that I want to score a touchdown, right?
That's
super simple, basic, like football. How do I get there? I'm going to run a series of plays. We should stop as a team and check to see, hey, we're trying to get a first down right now. We only move 4 yards. It's simple math. 10 minus 4, right? That's how many more yards we need. But a lot of times with these plannings, people are like, okay, the schedule says we should do this. Did you do it? Yes or no? And they don't even think like, well, how's that going to help you get to the end of this phase?
That's it, right?
Right. So I love that the moon, going to the moon is a big transcendent goal. And we love transcendent goals and agile frameworks like XP and Scrum. And Scrum borrows a lot of that good stuff. So like I always tell teams, like, and maybe you do the same when you're working with teams, like if we're building a school, schools have a very easy thing. It's like, in August, say August 23rd, the kids are coming back to school. So we have to be done so the kids can start school. And so the transcendent goal, the big goal is kids starting school. And we know the date, and everybody makes plans and actions and small pieces to get to the kids start school, right? If we do a hospital or a wastewater treatment plant or a manufacturing facility or a data center or anything else, sometimes people forget to make it as simple as, what do we need to do? And when is it important to have that done? And then it's yes or no questions. It's like it's a game of inches, like they said in the movie. Like I remember Al Pacino had the famous quote that this game, football, is a game of inches.
It really is, right?
And we're just making moves to get that inch. We're going to make all those inches adding up. And I don't remember how many inches are in 100 yards. But
right? Was it 36 times 100, right?
Yeah, exactly.
3,600 maybe.
That's where we're trying to get to. So
I stopped doing public math a long time ago.
Yeah, I got to also whip out. I know my strengths, and my strengths, and
there you go.
Using a calculator is the strength that gets me to the right number.
That's it. Right. Calculator, Excel. I'm a wizard. I'm good.
But what you're showing in what you've written and the stuff that I've seen you talking about, and Calvin's been on a lot of amazing shows that I listen to, like Gemba Academy and others. Good. And I still want to know, like, I have not heard, and all the things I've been stalking you on, like, where did you get your foundation in your agile understanding and practice? Where'd that come from?
It's a lot like my history with lean and continuous improvement is, I guess I didn't seek out to be educated on lean or CI or agile at first. It kind of just, like, I looked at the problems I was having and tried to figure out how to solve them, right? And I was coming up with ideas and sort of trying to figure out how to communicate my ideas. And in researching and trying to figure out how to say what I was trying to say is when I stumbled on Toyota Kata, right? It's like I was trying to do Toyota Kata, right? I was doing it. I was, I had folks that was like willing participants, and then I had folks that was on the fence, and I was trying to educate the folks on the fence. And I was like, man, how do I say this thing more effectively? And then I stumble onto Toyota Kata, because obviously Mike says these things in such a really brilliant way, right? It's like, oh,
Yes, he does.
this is great. This is prepackaged. I could just hand them the book and they'll get it, right? I read the book myself and loved it. And a lot of content I find just like, oh yeah, this is it, right? This is saying what I've been trying to say, right?
Right.
Same thing with Agile. Like I was moving toward, more toward away from like the project lists and all that stuff. And especially when it comes to strategy and seeing how, like I was executing strategy at Clorox. And this was my experience. I would go into the plants once a year and help them figure out their priorities and, help them build some project plans, some strategy execution plans, right? Then I would check in with them probably once a quarter, and some I wouldn't check in until the next year when it was time to redo the plan. And in almost every case, there was a rare few exceptions, but in almost every case, I would go back a year later and I would just ask, just for the sake of asking, how did it go with last year's plan? And almost nobody had an answer. It was almost as if we just got together for a week and banged our heads together for a week, coming up with breakthrough thoughts and all kind of stuff. And then you just took that plan and balled it up and threw it in the drawer, a dark drawer, never to be looked at again. That was the rule.
I'm only laughing this hard because spending 25 years in the construction industry and having been part of so many strategy offsites and like these magical things that you just described. And like, I remember even some companies, I'm not going to name any names, but people you can look on LinkedIn and figure out who I'm talking about. I'm just kidding. But yeah, you're right. People just, they have this kumbaya special feeling together, typically at very nice locations.
Right.
And then
exactly.
A year later, they just set another strategy and they don't even check to see, like, they don't close the loop. Like,
they did we get
right? They just don't close the loop.
This the analogy I like to use, and right, this is in the book too. So again, check out the book; it's going to be amazing. But it's almost like a pilot, right? Getting on a plane and saying, "Hey, we're going to go to Sacramento, right? Your hometown, right?
Yeah.
We're in Atlanta. We're going to go to Sacramento, and we got everybody on board. Everybody agrees. Okay, we going to Sacramento. That's where we all want to be, right? And it's like taking off from Atlanta, landing somewhere." Right? Somewhere, not even looking around to see where you landed, right? And just coming up with a new plan is we're going to go to Tokyo, getting on a plane and taking off again, right? Did you make it to Sacramento? Nobody knows. Nobody cares. Now we're going to Tokyo, right? And it's like a very dysfunctional way to run a business, but it's almost ubiquitous that
it is.
Companies run this way, So, So I decided, you know what, let's not come up with a year-long plan. Let's do this. Tell me what you're going to do by next week, right?
Right.
Tell me what your destination is. All right, we got that context. What are you going to have done by next week? And let's talk next week. Because people just can't process a year out.
Right.
You can't process work that needs to be done a year from now. It's just not, especially folks in operations who is very kind of, somewhat chaotic, and there's a high sense of urgency to get product out and, drive down costs and all that stuff, address quality issues, address safety issues. There's a lot of stuff that's really high urgency. You just don't have enough mental space to say, oh, but that thing that I'm supposed to have done a year, I got to do a little bit about that too today,
Exactly.
It just doesn't register that way. So what Agile Strategy Execution does, it says, all right, we got your year out destination. Then we got to break that down into your first down, which we're talking weeks or months. And then we break that down further into your next action, which is binary. Either it's done or it's not done, but we need to see some action in like a day or a week, relatively short time frame, right? Because, people can bite that chunk out of the elephant, right? They can handle that bite, but with typical strategy deployment, it's like, here's a whole elephant, you figure it out.
Yeah,
they're not going to figure it out.
No, they're not. They don't have the capacity. You're right. They don't have the mental capacity. It's not a question of intelligence, like Calvin's saying. It's a question of like somebody already has a 100% filled up day, and then
that's it.
you're taking them out of their element for this little bit and setting this goal. Because somebody read in a management book somewhere, sometime or somewhere, someone said setting a stretch goal is good for people. It's not. It's absolutely not good for people. Having a goal is good, but you've recognized, do you have the capacity with your people and your organization and to set goals and to actually achieve them? And they should be tied to business outcomes, not like just doing marketing stuff. You don't want to just say that your company does something and it doesn't actually benefit your company. That's waste. And there's a lot of strategy out there that I see in multiple industries where people just want to be saying or be seen to be doing something just because it's like the new cool thing and not actually using it to their benefit.
Well, I think it's this, right? A leader, like a CEO, has a board of directors or some type of board that kind of governs the job execution of the CEO. And this big, beautiful strategic plan the annual strategic plan is a great way for a CEO to say, look, I'm doing a good job. Look what I did, right? I put this plan together, right? And it's, it scores the CEO a lot of points, with the board or, whoever else is kind of governing the performance of the CEO. Problem is that although great for the CEO, it's terrible for everybody else. Everybody else that's underneath the CEO, it's really just not a useful thing to have or to do. And you got a lot of consultancies out there. It's great for them too, right? Because they get to come in, fly in for a week or two and
get those billable hours up.
Fill the hours up. You get together. Everybody has this, like you said, kumbaya moment. And then they get to come out saying, hey, we fixed you, right? No real work has been done. Like no real change, no real benefit is being made, especially at the front line level. Because if it's not happening at the front line level, then it really didn't happen, right? It was just kind of smoke and clouds up, upstairs, right?
Right.
Because the front line is what brings the something new to the customer, right? And if it never got to the customer, the business never really benefited. So. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's a great tool. The annual strategic plan is a great tool for a CEO or leader to say, hey, look, I'm doing a great job. I got this plan. But people lose interest right after you finish celebrating the fact that the plan is done, right? They lose interest in the plan and they go into, survival mode, so.
Yep. I've seen the same parallel with key performance indicators, management by objective. Or the very famous John Dewar's book, and I'm just spacing out on the name of the book right now.
It's the OKRs or something like that.
Yeah, OKRs, objectives and key results. Yeah, thank you, Kelvin. Yep. John Dewar's objectives and key results, and I was actually having a debate with a CI person in a large general contracting company just yesterday, Kelvin. Just yesterday, this debate was happening. And I said, yeah, you've got KPIs. And they're telling me like how fantastic it is to have KPIs. And I said, yeah, for you, the continuous improvement person. But I said,
right,
on your team, I was like, you just showed me this dashboard that has 80% of all the KPIs in red. And I asked you, my first question was like, what did it look like last month? Because you were showing me this snapshot report. And I said, are you giving people just snapshot reports? So if I look at this project that's a year and a half long, I'm going to have 18 reports just like this. Yep. Are they trending to always be like this? Like at what report did this start going red?
Are you getting better? Right. And what are you getting better at?
They said, we don't look at the trend. We just look at the last month. So I said, okay, now you're only looking at 2 data points at any given time. My question's the same. When did the team go from green to red and then change something that they did? Because now we're looking at 7 reports and they had to pull up 7 different files because it wasn't like anywhere in one easy spot to see. And I said, this team has been trending to lose money, to lose time, and to definitely dissatisfy the client. And you now only have 6 months to go before the project's over. What are you doing differently? Because they had this gigantic comment. The comment box in the spreadsheet, Calvin, was like this big, telling you why they couldn't be in the green. And I was like, what? Okay. I was like, all you did was tell a story as to why everything's not your fault.
You're just making excuses.
Exactly. In a nice report, I was like, but nothing's changed. The team didn't change.
So,
the trajectory's not changed. There's no recovery plan. This is why KPIs are like super fanatically loved by some CI type people, but not the project team. Like for them, it's an annoyance. I have to keep track of this thing that's just going to be used. So I have to tell a story to say why, we can't do anything. And they don't have time to change their trajectory. The way that they've been behaving and operating has led to this exact scenario.
That's it.
And having the KPI tell me that we're here, like you didn't need that. You knew that a year ago because you already know that your jobs don't finish on time.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So right there with you 100%. I mean, it just brings visibility to, the reality. That's it. And it stops there. Right. And, it's like if the kitchen is dirty and the light is off, nobody knows the kitchen is dirty. Right. Then you turn the light on, kitchen is still dirty. Right.
Right.
now you gotta go get the mop. Right.
That's why I love, like in your Toyota Kata minded way, and I'm gonna have to now classify you as a Kata geek, Calvin. You're automatically thinking like I am, right? I'm the same way. I'm like, what's the next step? Okay, now we know it's bad. Now what do we do?
That's it, right? Let's make it good, right? Let me see what actions. I'm more interested in what actions you're gonna do to make it good. That's but that's part of what, like, we have a software, it's a strategy execution software. And I've got some customers who sort of had the mindset that, I'm going to buy this software, I'm going to cascade my strategy, and I'm going to get people aligned, and I'm going to, use this as a tool to see kind of where we are, right, in real time. And they believe that just in the act of buying a software, that all their problems are solved. And I'm like, no, buying the software is the beginning of the journey, right? It just made you aware at how poorly you've been executing strategy, right? You've been executing poorly forever. Now you know how poorly you're doing it. The next stage in the game is to start putting some real meaningful actions behind driving improvement and even prioritizing where you want to put your resources so that you can sort of use your resources to make the greatest possible impact with the time and resources that you have. You want to make the greatest possible impact. So what I got a lot of customers realizing is that they've got surplus resources put against things that aren't necessarily all that important, and then they've got a deficit of resources being put against things that are super high priority. And just like you said, having visibility is step one. So once you have the visibility, now you gotta make some choices. You gotta make some priorities, and you gotta actually commit and invest in making a difference. And that's where the real continuous improvement happens, right?
I love that. That's like, so you're sparking all my agile nerves are all just like lighting up in my mind.
Good. Yeah, it's exciting stuff, man.
Yeah,
I think agile makes it way simpler and easier than the waterfall style.
Yeah, I'm so glad. And people like Calvin's experiences 100% are transcendent across multiple industries. It doesn't matter if it's retail, manufacturing, construction, design, product development, right? These things are universal across all businesses. Any organization where you're more than 5 people, you're going to start to have these types of issues. Like when teams are small, or when companies are small, they typically don't have this type of issue. When companies start to get larger, and you start to, like, you'll grow past a point where you don't even realize that you need some kind of communication methodology or process.
That's it.
A lot of companies just grow fast, they get lucky, and then overnight they're big, and then they don't have a way to even know, like, if they're being effective or not.
That's it. And here's the thing, like, all right, this is the thing that excites me about all this too, is that when you're small, you're kind of maxed out, right? You're already the underdog. You're the underdog, and you're trying to do something that's really not possible, right? And you're just going for it, right? You're doing what most people think you probably think you can't do, right? And they're just waiting to see what happens. When you get big, though, and these massive construction companies, right? You tend to not shoot for the stars anymore. You tend to not go for the moonshots anymore, right? You become content with the 10% improvement year over year, right?
Or less.
And or less, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes zero, right? And
Right.
negative even. You still, you're so entrenched in the business world that you don't have your goal is just like don't mess it up, right?
Right.
But just think about the latent human potential that is being suppressed in those environments. But if you're a big, massive, multi-billion-dollar company, you probably got the potential to put somebody on Mars and back.
Yeah.
Right. But these companies aren't going for that. They could say, hey, here's our moonshot. We're going to end poverty in the next 5 or 10 years. They could do it, but they won't even. It's a chain reaction because the company isn't reaching for its potential. The employees are also not being challenged to reach for their potential. Right.
Right.
And as a result, it's kind of a suppression model. So when you don't have an ambitious leader, it triggers sort of a chain reaction where, everybody else is sort of, in order to even stay at the company, you got to sort of suppress yourself to sort of fit in, right?
Oh my God. Yeah, you're hitting a nerve for me. I forgot I had this wound, Calvin. So I worked
Yeah,
at a
man.
place once, and we started having like massive success and the changes we were implementing. And
Yeah.
I remember several, ladies and gentlemen, leaders in the company, people with titles like vice president operations, vice president of X, president of an office. I mean, different high level executive titles coming and saying, stop. Like, this is like, you're working too much. And under the guise of like, we're concerned about, your work-life balance. And
oh my gosh,
they were trying to just like stifle the positive changes. And I remember one time we were even doing a presentation as a group. There was a group of people working across different projects, and they were sharing some of these continuous improvement wins. And the president of the office said, how did you even accomplish this? Like, nothing you did ever, no one ever came through me. That was their problem. At the end of a 1 hour presentation, the first question is, who authorized these changes? Because it didn't come through me.
Right. Exactly.
And I was like, there it is. That's like, I totally forgot, Calvin, that you're right. There are these organizations in their system. They are just trying to maintain and protect the status quo.
They're trying to not mess up. They're playing out of fear of making a mistake instead of saying, look at this incredible wealth of talent and capability and human capital and potential that is under our umbrella. Let's put all this to its highest and best use, right? And make a real impact on life and humanity and, whatever else, right? Instead of doing that, they're just like, I'm just going to sit here and get paid and enjoy the privileges I have and not risk. That's been my corporate experience, right? Is an experience of being challenged to fit in, right? And this whole idea of cultural fit and perception of you and all this other stuff is like, that's been a predominant thing, for me, because I'm somebody who will just do the right thing because it's the right thing and not because I got, somebody's approval or, all that stuff. And that kind of mindset doesn't necessarily fly in those environments because, people are just trying to protect their little thing that they got going. And if they see you as a threat to that, then they're going to try to, move against you. And I think all that is a result of the company just not being ambitious enough, right? The company not wanting to do greater, because if you truly want to do greater, and I got Felipe who came up with this thing, and I'm trying to get to level 10 and we're at level 4, and Felipe came up with something, he just did it. I'm like, Felipe is my guy. I'm putting Felipe up here, right? Do more of that, Felipe. We need more. We need more of that, as much of that as you can do. So keep doing it, right? Me and you, we're around the same age. So I think we're reaching that stage in our career where we got enough real experience where we know what's up, but we also got the energy and the talent to do a lot more. So, I can imagine there's a lot of us out there who are like interested or anxious to make a real difference here.
Yeah, the listeners of the EBFC show, it's the easier, better for construction, or people that know the Shingeo Shingo model, easier, better, faster, cheaper. I mean, we are all about, everybody listening to the show is all about making things easier and better, because why not? Like Calvin and I, we've been around the sun a few times. we've seen some stuff where we know that time is limited. Like your time is precious. And like Calvin said, that eighth waste is arguably one of the worst. I used to think earlier when I first started getting into lean that it was like, let's deal with waiting and wasted motion. And now at this stage of my game, I'm all about number 8, unutilized talent, or just the inability for ideas to be put into play and experiment with. So everything I'm all about, let's experiment. The Toyota Kata, throw me in that same category as a Kata geek.
Oh yeah.
Because
hey man, welcome
that's
to the club.
Yeah, that's where it's at. Thank you. The honorary member. I love it.
That's it. Yeah.
But that's what I mean, I love your website, Improver. You're just saying like, let's just get better. Like it, and you said like we could have infinite or unlimited type of growth. It is actually possible because we're so far from being optimized in any business. You're so far below from optimization. So I wanted to just give you the final say, Calvin, before we roll clip on this and play the music out. What do you want to leave people thinking about?
I think everybody should take a moment to figure out what's their moonshot, and it doesn't have to be 5 things. And it really should be one thing. Like, what is your moonshot? Right. I was challenged with that question by a mentor recently. And, the one I came up with is that is around poverty. Right. Because I think, when it comes to strategy execution, when it comes to continuous improvement, lean and all that stuff is, ultimately it's to improve productivity. And, productivity and poverty kind of go hand in hand. Right.
Right.
High poverty and productivity is sort of the antidote to high productivity is the antidote to poverty, right? The cost to fetch a gallon of water for somebody in a third world country is enormously high. When here in the US, it's just like walk in the bathroom and turn on the spigot. So low cost. So if people are consuming hours and hours of their day just to get clean, drinkable water, they're not going to be able to do bigger things in life, right? So, and that's that kind of thing is really an engineering problem. So the way I look at Improver is like what we're doing is we're transforming every single worker into an engineer. Don't just go do your job, but actually make the work better, right? Improve your job. To me, that's the function of an engineer. I know Kata and the rest of the CI world thinks of scientific thinking as the sort of the meta skill, but I think engineering is really the meta skill because I look at science like, let's discover something new. Let's learn and understand something new. I look at engineering as not just learning, not just discovering, but taking what you discover and applying it towards some ends, right? Toward that moonshot, right? Toward that touchdown. So to know is not enough. You also have to apply. I think at the work we're doing and transforming every worker into an engineer, the solutions, the technology, the science that they develop could end up eliminating poverty around the world. I think that's really our moonshot. That's what we're trying to do. If I can get 1,000 CEOs to join me, and transform your business, grow profitability, reduce costs, grow productivity, serve customers better. In the act of doing that, and in the act of engaging all your people in doing that and pulling forward, you'll inevitably create greater processes, greater tools, greater technology, greater science that could be applied towards some of the world's bigger problems. What's your moonshot? You decide what it is, right? And then work that down to your short-term goal, and then work that down to your next action and get it done quickly. So that's it. That's it, Felipe. Does that work for you?
That works.
Yeah.
Very special thanks to my guest. I'm Felipe Engineer Manriquez. The EBFC show is created by Felipe and produced by a passion to build easier and better. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, everybody. Let's go build.